Welcome, everyone, to another edition of the Wrestling Underground podcast. I'm your host, once again, as always, Chad. Joining me is the glorious one himself, Marcus. How the hell are you, buddy?
Good man. Didn't know how full our wrestling place would be this weekend until you laid it out before the show.
Right? So, here's the long and skinny of it. We were going to do a top 10 countdown of the most bungled ideas, angles, wrestlers, what have you, in TNA history. That was going to take a long time to put together, and after the last 3 days of work, I didn't have the extra time to dedicate to prepping. So I realized that we had four big shows and a large discussion about these shows that needed to be had, and I figured why not just have it. So we're covering All In, Saturday night's main event, Evolution 2, and Great American Bash 2025. And the conversation around the idea of, just booking or counter program booking is what it is. And let's be honest, the WWE is basically throwing out pawns to get destroyed so they can take away something from AEW because they know they can't beat AEW this weekend. They would have to have SummerSlam or WrestleMania, and you would have to run a similar market, and you're going to kill the market. Like, neither group will get a lot of the finances that they could have. So instead, what they're trying to do is they're trying to bleed a little bit, just hurt it a little bit, because they know that All In is going to be the show to watch. They know it. If they didn't know that, if they truly believed that All In was susceptible to counter programming on a massive scale, we would not be getting a 60-year-old retirement match. We would not be getting a hastily built card with no one of value and no storylines of intrigue to draw you in. And we wouldn't get a Great American Bash card that I think has like less than 1,000 people in attendance so far. So, geeks. So let's talk these shows because these shows are great. And Marcus, I don't know if you've seen the Okada Omega poster yet. Okada's in the silhouette of a blue dragon that seems to be like lightning and rain just tearing apart the sky, while Omega's in the vestige of a phoenix almost, emerging from fire, and they're juxtaposed against one another. And it's one of the coolest posters I've ever seen. Whoever did this for AEW needs to work for them full time because this is incredible. It's the coolest thing I've seen ever. And if they sell this on Pro Wrestling Tees, I'll be buying it. I'm not even an AEW guy. Like, I might watch the show because I'm getting ready to leave for a little bit of a vacay on the 12th, and I think they're set to start around 2 or 3, so I may have time to watch it. But like, I'm not an AEW guy. I like that they're around, and sometimes they bring me in. They not bring me in. Sometimes they bring me into the product. Like, they're like, "Hey, we're doing this thing." I'm like, "Okay, I want to see that thing." But I'm not an AEW guy. But I watch AEW more than I watch the WWE. But if we're being honest, I'm a TNA MLW guy first and foremost. But this card is pretty stacked, and I want to talk about it. There's rumors, I don't know how true they are, that AJ Boom or whatever his name is, the Costco guy, may tag with Big Show and someone else to take on the Don Callis family to open the show on the pre-show. And I'm like, God, Big Boom, AJ, and Big Show, that would be fucking hilarious. Like, yes, I need to see that. That would be a travesty, and I so bad. But they have two Casino Gauntlet matches. Right now, we don't know who the participants are other than Chris Statlander will be the first entrant for the women's Casino Battle Royale, while Mark Briscoe, MJF, Mystico, Ricochet, and just recently announced did I say Ricochet already? Yeah, I did. Brody King and Bandito will also be in the men's Casino Gauntlet. That'll be interesting. I don't know who's gonna win, and I honestly, there's no one on this roster that I'm so in love with. I need to see them win. That being said, I wouldn't be surprised if this is how Darby Allin comes back to the promotion. I think he's
Mm,
down from the mountain now, and I think now I could be wrong. I don't know how long it takes to descend. I know it's still pretty fucking treacherous. Going up or going down. That's a big ass mountain. But assuming he is down, this is the perfect opportunity to have him come back and win the whole damn thing. Especially since they're building up Mystico and MJF. Um, that might be a sleeper contender for feud of the year for us. I'm gonna put that out there. I am super impressed with what they're doing. So like we don't really have anyone to talk about for those matches. So I'm hoping some surprises do pop up. That'd be cool. The first match that I do want to talk about, it's a three-way tag team match. It'll be the Hurt Syndicate, Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin, taking on the Patriarchies, Christian Cage and Nick Wayne, taking on Jet Speed, Kevin Knight and Speedball Mike Bailey. Now, I think Adam Copeland's getting ready to return, and there is a desire to do something with Christian and Cope here in the coming few weeks and months. So I have to assume that if the former Edge is to come back, it'll either be in the Casino Gauntlet or it'll be in this match. I don't see the Hurt Syndicate losing. With all due respect to Knight and Bailey, who are fantastic talents, and with even little respect to Christian Cage at 53, I don't see Cage and Wayne and Bailey and Knight being the teams to unseat Lashley and Benjamin. I think it makes the most sense to do the Outrunners. They're super over. I think they just pinned FTR clean. They're the ones to do it. So I think the Hurt Syndicate should go over. Marcus, any thoughts on this triple threat? I think we momentarily lost Marcus. There
Let's
you are.
see. No, we good. Yeah. First off, that poster is the definition.
Right?
Um, yeah, that's next level. And yeah, before the tag team match go, I kind of preference last Dynamite before this show is airing as we speak. Um, Dave injured Lashley.
Mm.
Uh, his leg before this match, so they may very well play into it. And like you said, you think the OGs are going to take him out, the Outrunners,
Yeah, the
essentially be
Outrunners.
the ones to take it off of.
Well, they've been wrestling
Yeah,
since the late
but I don't.
70s, so like I feel like if anyone could.
Yeah, yeah. So it's gonna be interesting seeing what they do. They've been doing really great stuff with the Hurt Syndicate. I'm just the MJF stuff just don't really do anything for me. But that you know maybe I'm in the minority on that. Uh,
I thought MJF
like
was
it. Not all good.
beats and
But
scores.
yeah, like just be like that they put those two together in the patriarchy. They may. I wonder if they'll sneak out with it because they always lend some stuff to Chris. They don't keep him off the outside of things too long because if he's featured too heavily, to kind of just be somebody that just consistently on screen and never really gets to tip or anything like that. So if I had to say somebody might squeak out with the caveat being what they did to Lashley's leg, I might lean towards the patriarchy.
Okay. It would certainly set up an interesting run if Cope comes back. Maybe Cope will get himself a little Nick Wayne kind of associate and then go to town. Could be an interesting tag feud.
Real quick because obviously we saw the classic and this is big for the two of us was specifically view the classic Animorph. Speaking of stick photos, the Animorph thing with the Sting, one of the last of Sting's matches. Do you think Darby could be that partner for him?
Yeah, absolutely. What I would say though about that is I would rather them go with um someone like Nick Wayne in this instance. I think he's like 22.
Yeah.
Let's see how young. He's 20. I would like them to do something along the lines of like Nick Wayne, like a 20, 21, 22, 23-year-old. Darby's in his I think he's like 30. And I think this would be
Mm.
a great way to not only build up a new young star. Yeah, Darby's 32. But it would be a way to kind of pass the torch on to Nick Wayne and whomever this other young wrestler could be. And like you have like a smorgasbord of young wrestlers on the brand that are under 25 who could all use that cope rub. So like I think you have so many opportunities there. I don't think you need to go with Darby Allin, and I don't think putting Darby Allin with Cope is the right move for Darby. So I would have Cope and be it Kevin Knight, because I think Kevin Knight's like 24. Oh, Kevin Knight's
Gotcha,
28.
gotcha. Yeah,
But yeah, it would be that kind of
yeah,
idea. Uh,
yeah, to their point, that would be good. Like the two of them giving these young studs the rub on opposite sides of the thing,
mm-hmm.
and they be even more leaning towards that with the patriarchy. The whole thing about Christian wanting that, be the first father and son duo to hold the tag titles, that narrative. So yeah, that actually might be a good direction to go in. Like you said, if they properly line up somebody to tag with Cope, and then because the whole thing with him and Edge is like, well, him and Christian supposed to be kind of like feels like the fight for everything with AEW if they don't eventually close things out with a tag, which I would imagine they want to do. A real great way to do something big for two youngsters on the way to potentially them get back together. So yeah,
Then we have the TNT title match. Going to be Adam Cole versus Kyle Fletcher. I think we blinked, and then all of a sudden Adam Cole became a veteran. He's 36, far from the end of his career by any means. He's 36, and Kyle Fletcher is a whole decade younger. But not only that, Kyle Fletcher has a look, he's got style, he's got charisma. As the less intelligent among us would say, he's got aura. And I feel like he's got to go
mm,
over here. Like Fletcher's the future, and Cole is the present. But I don't. I said this. No, I said this in Ring of Honor. I said this in NXT. I don't even think Cole got to the main roster. I don't see
yeah,
Adam Cole as a guy that, frankly, you build a company around. I know a lot of people like Adam Cole, but I feel like it's popularity by association. He was always the less
mm,
impressive aspect of the Kingdom. He was less impressive aspect of Bullet Club. He's a good wrestler, technically sound from bell to bell, but he's not a great promo. He doesn't stand out physically. He doesn't have an enticing look. You have the opportunity to get Kyle Fletcher over in a big way. So you do it. He's got one of the best nicknames in the business, the Proto Star. He's got one of the best looks in the business. That pink is just fucking on fire. It's in fuego. And I think when you see him, he screams superstar. And considering Will Ospreay and him have history, they're two of the best workers on the roster. They're both in their athletic primes. I don't see how you don't go with Kyle Fletcher to go over here, personally.
yeah, agreed. To your point, anybody that's been long listening to us know our stance on Cole and whatnot. It was he was the guy at a very specific time in NXT, and I think he's greatly benefited from basically doing the same thing every place he's went, where establishing basically the same, if not a couple people off of the same faction, and being the de facto leader of it, and then obviously continuing to do this classic Adam Cole Bay Bay stuff. But for the most part, that's about the ceiling of it. I think one of the best things that AEW did, the brain trust or whatever, was take him out of and away from anything related to the world title, which he was only, I think, around because of MJF, and putting him in more of the mid call with the TNT situation.
Mm-hmm.
But coming here, to your to your point, kind of like we blinked and he feels like he's become a veteran. Being as respectful as possible to Cole, what do you think fast tracked him to that status faster? The the injuries that he incurred that almost took him out for good, or his relationship that also, was going on at the same time.
Well, yeah, the relationship with Britt Baker didn't help anything. I think the injuries, but I also think he just has a cap. I know everyone liked to dunk on Triple H when he said that everyone's got a role to play. That's true to an extent, but I think in reality, the real statement is that everyone has a limit. They have a limit to what they can be. They have a limit to what they can do. And if you're not willing to, do the my hero of it all and go beyond plus ultra, to use a phrase, you're not going to elevate too high. If you look at Kenny Omega today, you look at his physique, his look, his style, and then you look at him when he was in Deep South Wrestling. He's improved his physique. He's changed his look. He's made himself stand out physically. His general appearance is eye catching and memorable. You look at Adam Cole and you're like, oh God, Shawn Michaels lost 48 pounds and grew a beard. Gross. I know it's not, politically correct to comment on people's bodies. I don't want to do that. I don't want to be that guy. But if you're Adam Cole, you've been doing this for, fuck how long? 16 years now? And you still can't seem to elevate yourself to the top of a roster? Because, say whatever you want about his time in NXT. That was a developmental brand. That third brand bullshit is marketing. It's a developmental brand. It absolutely is. He was the chief guy on a developmental brand. He was an afterthought in Ring of Honor. He held the belt only because there was no one else to hold the belt. They wanted to put the belt on Kyle O'Reilly, but Kyle O'Reilly was done. He didn't want to be there anymore. So they went back to Cole. Same thing with Matt Taven. These were not guys that they were super high on as far as future stars. Cole needs to work on his physique. He needs to change up his look. He needs to invest in looking powerful, dynamic, unique, eye catching. And right now, he just looks like every other dude I see at like an all day rock festival in like Missouri. Like, oh, cool, 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 cool. You're a pro wrestler? Cool, cool, cool. I don't believe it. And that's always going to be Adam Cole's hangup. He doesn't have the personality, he doesn't have the charisma, he doesn't have the look. He's a great worker. Bell to belly's fantastic. But he doesn't look like a superstar. And that's the thing. You need to look like a superstar if you want to sell tickets.
Yeah,
That's them's the breaks, kid.
and
Taylor
and that's
Swift
what's
isn't
on the other
doing
side of the match.
yeah, Taylor Swift isn't doing, $1 billion shows every night, dressed in jeans and a white t-shirt with paint stains. She's got bombastic dresses, all over the top, pyro, more people on her staff than the White House. Like,
Yeah,
she knows what she's doing, and it works. Same thing with Beyonce. Like, look at all those cowgirl outfits she wore when she was doing her, what is it called? Cowboy Carter?
yeah,
Completely impractical outfits for actual cowgirl work. But
yeah.
for a performance so magnetizing, so eye catching and eye popping, she stole the scene for a good year. If you want to raise your profile, you need to up your game. And Adam Cole has not upped his game since he debuted in Ring of Honor. So like, yeah,
That's right.
lose to Kyle Fletcher and move over.
And, and ironically enough, that's everything Fletcher did. Doing his feud with Ospreay, cut his hair, like you
Mm-hmm.
said, out with Callis, adopted the pink, which a lot of people probably couldn't pull off, but he is killing it. Got the name, got the as the kids would say, got the elevated Riz, if you will, and he's killing it. So I think that's definitely the direction to go in. Like I said, no shot at Cole, but sometimes you just got to move on. They moved on from um Daniel Garcia to Cole, and I think Kyle Fletcher is an next logical elevation in that.
Agreed. I think if you want to keep Adam Cole, one of the things you do, and you only do this if there's genuine desire to do so, you put him on Ring of Honor. I think you put him, Joe, if Danielson still has any desire to wrestle, I think you move some of these names over to Ring of Honor and let them tour separately. If you're not doing that, when his contract's up, just say goodbye because you have found better, more impressive talent than Adam Cole. Two of those men, Swerve Strickland and Will Ospreay, are going to be in a tag team match against the Young Bucks. This is the only match I don't give a shit about. The Young Bucks do nothing for me. They've never done anything for me, and I'm still sitting here going, okay. Winner basically gets the thing they want. If the Young Bucks win, Ospreay and Strickland can't challenge for the AEW Championship for a whole year. I think that would be stupid. I hate the stipulation. I hated it when they did it with Cody, and I hate it when they're doing it now. If the Young Bucks lose, they'll be technically "quote unquote" stripped of their EVP titles. I don't care about this match. I hope Strickland and Ospreay win. That's all I gotta say. What about you,
Yeah, I
Marcus?
mean, look, the EVP titles don't mean F all when how long ago was that Tony Khan came back and they got beat up or whatever? Or however they did that storyline?
It's
You
been
know Khan's back in play.
74 years.
74 years, been a thing. So once that happened, this became it was just one more thing to make them annoying on the list that already had 100 things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, like you said, this will be interesting match to watch. All these guys can go. We already know that. But this is, I think you titled it before. It's a nothing burger. There's no reason to hold off two of your best guys anywhere in wrestling from competing for the title that you could put on either guy and you make money with. So the Bucks need to and should lose. God willing, they don't go against that logic, but stranger things have happened for these two older men.
So that takes us to the three main events. I shouldn't say three main events. The three marquee matches, and I'm gonna go over them in order that I'm excited about from least. Least I don't care. You can rewrite the narrative all you fucking want. You little Twitter hellscapers. John Moxley's title run and his Death Riders is the most boring thing in wrestling. I cannot get into it. I do not care. Everyone's like, when you finally see the title, it'll be like the sun after a storm. No, I don't care. I want it to be over. I want it to be over so bad. But Page isn't the guy. I'm sorry. He might be, for the sickos. He's not for everyone else. You have Swerve Strickland and Will Ospreay on your roster. I cannot emphasize this enough when I say they are two of the best 10 workers in the world today. Adam Page can't spell the number he is on the rankings of best talents, let alone be in that category of the top 10. And I'm supposed to sit here and think, oh, yeah, Adam Page, so much better world champion than Swerve and Ospreay. The only reason people are saying that is because CM Punk has nuked his reputation with the Saudi Arabia shit. That's it. To me, Adam Page is one of those guys that the promotion has outgrown. Now, his stuff with Swerve was great, but I do not think that he on his own is a great star. I think he can be interesting in the right programs, but the talent around this company has exceeded his ceiling. And to put the belt on him or to keep the belt on Moxley for any longer than you need to is tantamount to malpractice. You have Fletcher, Swerve, Osprey. You have I don't want to say MJF. You do have other guys who are developing around you, like Kevin Knight, Mike Bailey, Nick Wayne. These guys are so good in the ring, and you're gonna give it to Page, who's fine. Like his last world title run was wholly uninteresting and super unimpressive. And like what we're gonna do it again? His promos are good. They're good enough. I shouldn't say good. They're good enough. When you put them in the right scenario with the right intrigue, they're good enough. But I feel like we're trying too hard. I feel like we're trying too hard to make this Virginian into a Texas cowboy. He's not. And honestly, I don't think this should main event the show. I don't. I don't think it should main event the show, and I don't think it should win. But I don't want to see any more of the John Moxley fucking bullshit either. Like the Death Riders are a terrible stable with the personality of a cucumber. Like,
Yeah, that's saying a lot coming from you, who is also monitoring stuff that's going on in the Fed.
mhm.
So this goes beyond the Samoan fetish that the Fed has for you. So that's saying a lot. And God bless Moxley, does what's asked of him and all that good stuff. But it has been absolutely emotionless. No evoking of any type of feeling besides, please, can we get through this? Get this off my screen. Where's Ricochet type of deal.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean, look, if for nothing else, like you said, definitely guys that I put over pages where I think he's benefited. I think he's benefited even more from the feud with Swerve than Swerve has, but that's mostly because he needed the, a reason to reinvest in him. So he's done well with that. But like you said, it's always something else kind of around him, making him more interesting as opposed to the other way around. And here he's kind of the best of the two negative options, if you will. Anything right now is better than Moxley. If you go put it on page, you can go back to obviously him and Swerve. That feels like a fight for everything. Obviously, him and Ospreay had an absolute, you know, banger early in the year. So yeah, they need, this needs to be where they take it off Moxley. This experiment went off the rails months ago, and it feels like any longer would be a little bit more than an insult. So who who's second to last for you?
So I'm excited about this match. I just don't think it's the best match to look forward to, and that's the Tony Storm Mercedes Moné. I'm a little surprised this isn't a winner take
Mm,
all match because I feel like that would have added a lot of emphasis. But that also tells me that Tony
yeah,
Storm's going to
same.
win. Had you put the
Mm,
women's TBS title on, which
TBS,
I hate those names,
yeah.
by the way. TNT, ugh. Had you I think she's also the New Japan Women's Champion, the New Japan Strong Women's Champion, or whatever it is. And like the
And she got like four
CMLL,
of the belts.
yeah,
Yeah.
she's doing the Ultimo Dragon bit, and I love it. If they had put on all those belts, she's winning, right? She's not the IWGP Women's Champion. She's the CMLL World Women's Champion. Had you done that, put all the belts on line, Mercedes is winning. Had you put just the one belt on the line, Tony Storm's winning. Um, the story's a little ruined in that regard. Now I know, hey, maybe they pull a fast one. Maybe Mercedes does win, but I also feel like Tony Storm shouldn't lose right now. And you've kind of done this great job of keeping Tony Storm protected and not having to deal with the whirlwind that is Mercedes Moné. And because of that, you're able to elevate both. And Monet has done such a great job being an ambassador for the company with other promotions that I feel like the current dichotomy works. And while I think Monet will eventually get her run, I think it'll be after she loses her belts because I think the best thing for Monet is to put over someone on the way up and then take down Storm later on in the year or at the start of next year, unless you want to do something completely different because they are developing a nice young women's roster on this company. But I don't think the
Well,
talent around them is on the par of Mercedes or Tony Storm. I think they are unequivocally your two best options in the women's division for vastly different reasons. Mercedes has always been one of the best workers in the world. That's going to upset a lot of people. I don't care. It's the truth. She is a fantastic in ring talent. She has a essence about her. I would not say she's a great promo. I think she's a good enough promo, and I think that's something. But I think when you look at Tony Storm, her promos are timeless. Her whole cut down of what's her name, Tiffy wannabe, Tiffy 2.0, um, Mariah May. Her whole cut down of Mariah May, like it sunk her
yeah.
when she jumped. Like no one sees Mariah May as a star anymore. because of that line. I sentence you to a lifetime of mediocrity. You'll have a good career, but not great.
And you say that, and they pair her next to Jordan Grace, who you already know what you think of her.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, she's being used horribly in NXT, but Jordan Grace is the best in-ring talent bar to bar. There's no debate. It's who's number two. Julia Monet. There's a whole smorgasbord of talent in Japan. Don't sleep on some of these women
Yeah,
from WoW. Shimmer, I think, is kicking out some talent still. But you're all arguing for number two. Jordan Grace is the best in the world when it comes to female wrestlers. Like just I know it's an opinion. It's not. It's a fact. I can mathematically prove. 2 plus 2 is you're wrong. 2 plus 2 is Thomas Jefferson, sucker. What do you think of Tony Storm and Monet? Do you think that should be the main event of the card?
no, I mean, look, I think it's close. To your point, it's just that the other the one next to it just got so much history. It's a given. But I think this match, everything you said, obviously, Monet has had a banner year. The company's had a banner year, and she's been a big reason for it. I think she is absolutely earning every bit of that big money contract that she earned. And like you said, has been doing a great job being an absolute ambassador for the company. You could tell that it's probably one of the best times, if not the best time in her entire wrestling career, because she's absolutely driving the ship and clearly getting everything she wants. And in turn, she's doing everything that she possibly can to put the company and the women's title and this division on her back and put in some high quality working matches around the world. And you got on the other side, Tony Storm has been one of the best things in wrestling over the last few years, bar none. And to your point, the fact that they allowed both of these women to exist and thrive in the way that they have and keeping them separate long enough to where this um no collision, no pun intended, makes sense at this time on this show, speaks to them needing to and actually doing better at developing their women's division and their storyline thereof. So, this I think is one of those other showings along with everything else that they did with Tony and Mariah. But this as well. To your early point on it, it does feel like because it's not a winner take all thing, that it is more so leaning towards Tony. It's hard to count Monet out of the situation because she has been that female belt collector doing her Omega thing, or like you said, the Ultimo thing. But it's just that it feels like both women have been playing with house money, but it feels like Tony's just been doing it at a completely different level. Like you said, Mercedes, you got everything, but I don't necessarily look forward to her on the mic. If I don't watch anything a lot of times off of a Dynamite or a Collision, I catch what Tony did.
Mm-hmm.
I won't necessarily do that for Mercedes all the time. So, um, yeah, I got to lean towards Tony as well. Um, and then if Mercedes won, I'm like she wouldn't physically be able to carry one more freaking belt. So, um, that feels like a little throwaway thing, but it's just a little adage there. But yeah, timeless. And to be fair to your, like you said, they could really just keep this thing going to their next big show. They've taken so long to build towards it. They've been properly building towards it for weeks. So I don't feel like this could just necessarily be a one and done. I could see this thing kind of stretching, for the rest of the summer if they wanted to. So, but I'm going with Tony as well.
That takes us to the match that I think should be the headliner, should be the main event, should be, the one that closes the show. Kenny Omega v Kazuchika Okada. Um, it's baffling to me. You look at this man. He's held the World Trios titles twice. He's held the World Tag Team titles once. He's the international champion, and he has been the world champion, but he only held the world title belt once. I think when you look at his run in wrestling, it's one of the all-time greats. But I also feel like we've underutilized him. Now, some of this is due to injury. We've underutilized him in AEW. He was the champion for most of the pandemic era. Lost it to Page, who lost it to Punk, who then lost it to Moxley, who then lost it to Punk, who then lost it to Moxley. That's one of the biggest shitstorms I've ever seen in terms of booking, by the way. And then since Moxley lost it to MJF, it's been MJF, Joe Swerve, Bryan Danielson, Moxley. And aside from Bryan Danielson's 48 days, all pretty decent reigns. But I feel like MJF and Moxley really kind of capped the creativity at the top because I don't think either guy should be your headliners. And I feel like with Omega being healthy and now nearing the end of his run as a full time guy, his words not mine. I think you have Omega unify the belts, and then I think you have Omega beat Moxley for the title, and then whoever your next big name is can beat Omega in 4 to 6 months, right? I think them revisiting the feud is fantastic. Um, them unifying these belts, I think, makes all the sense in the world. And I think they're going to elevate the AEW Unified Championship to World Championship or just under the World Championship status. And to have this once, iconic rivalry revisited in a brand new promotion with guys still close to their peak, I think is a great idea. My only complaint is I wish Okada had been used better. I think his run in AEW has been one of the more unimpressive things that they've done since he's joined them. But I think they still have time to turn it around. So I'm hoping that's exactly what happens. Uh, I think Omega should go over, and I think it should be the headline. Marcus, thoughts?
Yeah, man, can't go wrong with nothing you said. I mean, look, I just think it's really cool the fact that they got back to this in a quality and believable way. Specifically with one being a continental and one being international. And I was wondering your thoughts about them unifying the titles and that whole thing, as well as your thoughts on the aesthetic of the belt, because that's also, that's a big thing for both of us. Um, but I do, well, I want to get your take on what do you think that means for that tournament now?
So I think they're going to keep the tournament. They just may not have the belt anymore, and I think that might be the right call.
Hmm,
It's hard to do a tournament where you
got
then
you. So,
become the champion and then you then do the tournament again. It's a lot, and I don't think you need to go through all those hoops. I
yeah,
think you can keep the Continental Classic without having to have a Continental belt. Now, the
got it.
history
Got
for
you.
both
Got
belts will be represented in the Unified Championship, and I think that's a great thing. Here's hoping Orange Cassidy can get back in with this sucker.
you.
Um,
Same. Would you still do that tournament the same way though? Will have the champion in the tournament, or just have him be the person that you face once you win the tournament?
I think that's how you would do it because with it being the unified championship after Saturday, you're not going to have a continental champion to be in the Continental Classic, and it'll be weird
Yeah,
to have the unified champion in the Continental Classic. So I think what you end up doing though is you do um, the unified champion as the prize for the Continental Classic. I think that'd be a good idea.
yeah, gotcha. But yeah, to your point, Omega, because he's actually been. It feels like he's talked about several times. I don't know what Okada is that he feels like he's having. This is kind of his feels like what Shinsuke did when he went to WWE, except Okada feels far more important.
Mm-hmm.
Um, in terms of him just kind of wanting more freedom and kind of just doing what he wants, doing having a lot more fun. And he has been very entertaining while keeping that same Okada-ness when he's had his matches. But Omega is I've kind of seen lately where he's been talking a lot about kind of closing on to the more on the end of his career than off to the beginning. So if we're seeing kind of some of the last stretches of his career, obviously coming off of something that could have ended his life with the diverticulitis,
Mm-hmm.
this last stretch of matches is pretty important for him. So, I would definitely, to your point, have Omega, kind of be the one to go over. You can always, you know, talking through this card, it feels like the AEW has done a great job at setting up a lot of scenarios where they have multiple feuds where it could be a fight for every scenario where you could always revisit these particular things, whether it be Swerve and Hangman or got Omega. Now you got the Mercedes and Thomas thing. You can go back to a lot of this stuff, but Omega is their guy, and if you're gonna give somebody this elite back after something so critical, and he's still performing at such an elite level, you got to capitalize on that. And I think he'd be a great champion to do. To your other point, if we could get somebody like Orange Cassidy back at 100%, because I think to me he was the best international champion. Um, and have an Orange Cassidy versus Kenny Omega. To me that's a marquee match. So, but definitely out of these three matches, these last three you talked about, who do you think will take the who do you feel like has the match of the year on paper, and who do you think is will deliver match of the year in terms of a match?
Omega Okada. I think they're gonna do some amazing things. Unless Omega tries to, get too creative because he's a very intelligent, very creative guy. But sometimes his ideas can be like, well, that didn't work. He can be, it's like Rian Johnson as a filmmaker. Sometimes Kenny Omega can come up with some matches that, like, on paper seemed really interesting, and then, well, or anything. But
Yeah.
speaking of seemed interesting, but anything but, let's talk about Saturday Night's main event. This card is ass. As of right now, there's only 3 matches. The show is on 12. Terrible, just fucking terrible. This has been so hastily thrown together, and I feel bad for Goldberg and what's left of his knees because like no one's talking about it. And I understand Goldberg's not exactly the most popular guy in the IWC, but I love Goldberg, and I will always love Goldberg. And to see that this match is being fed as like a minor cut in the AEW WWE war is disappointing. The rest of the card is ass. I don't care about Randy Orton. He's 102. I don't care about Drew McIntyre. He's proven to be a WWE cuck boy. The two of them can go fuck off forever. They have no more value in my life as far as performers go. There's nothing interesting about them. I think the most interesting Drew McIntyre can be at this point is reuniting with the 3MB. Like that. That's it. LA Knight will never be a main eventer in WWE. They've proven that time and time again. There's no reason to put him over. There's no reason for him to do anything at this point. His career will go down as a could have been, like Ted DiBiase or any number of great talkers who were overlooked by bigger names. And I don't give a shit about the Nazi fucker. Never have. He was kind of cool in NXT when he was Tyler Black and he was doing, the hair shit and the belt twisting and twirling. After that, I don't care. It's a 1 match show. It's Gunther and Goldberg, and it's not even going to be a long match. It's going to be maybe 4 minutes if we get there. If Goldberg's knees don't go out on him, I don't know if he's going to do stem cell, if he's going to inject him full of like pain, like not painkillers, like morphine. But like, I don't know how this match is gonna go, and it might be ugly. It might be, knock off fucking purse ugly, man. It could be bad.
Yeah, that classic Jim Ross, and goodwill wishes to Jim Ross. Shout out to that cancer free, getting cancer free for the legend. But yeah, that classic Jim Ross bowling shoe ugly type of deal. Yeah,
It's going to be ugly.
I, I like Goldberg. He's got a lot of positives. Seems like a great guy. Off screen, and it's kind of hard for either one of us to cheer against anybody who, you know, against anybody. I should say anybody who got into it with Riddle. um, and yeah, I just hope everything goes as smoothly as possible and he doesn't get seriously injured coming out of this match as his final match. And to your point, hopefully he and him retire in the way that he likes and can go out on a decent note, and then heal himself over stem cells and whatever else he needs to do to have a better, best of a quality life at his age that he can. Now that he's gotten to a point where he can do something like this after watching his son get to a point where he can do his own thing. Um, no reason at all to take this title off Gunther. Thank God that they got the title back on him, because he's operating on a different level right now. It's crazy to even say I missed anything in relation to the word Nazi, but the Nazi effort return was great. Um,
Well,
I wish they felt it. Yeah,
I was gonna say, well, Grok recently stated that it was Mecha Hitler, so like it's in vogue. Topic of
yeah.
town.
I kind of wish. Yeah, I kind of wish they felt about LA Knight the way that they obviously have always felt about Seth.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but Seth is one of their guys. You know, LA Knight is kind of like that. Somebody that they took on and have an appreciation for. But the fact that he even ever got saddled with that um Max Dupree thing kind of tells you everything you needed to know. And thank God they got back to the LA Knight of it all. And he's always done his own thing to get himself in position to be great. I think the hottest point that he reached was doing that whole Roman thing, and they didn't. He feels like he's been swimming, doing an admirable job swimming back uphill ever since.
Yeah.
So yeah, probably they're gonna go the way of the Dodo and get Steph there. As far as Orton and McIntyre, like you said, it's a kind of whatever thing. I lean more towards McIntyre because I just find it hard to do anything in relation to rooting for Orton at this point. He is what he is at this point in his career. Don't really get excited around anything around him except seeing him RKO people that I like worse that I don't like over him, which is rare these days. But yeah, like you said, this is feels like kind of a nothing thing, one match show. And like you said, really ultimately on a foundational level, just something to distract from what's going on the other side of the aisle. So yeah,
Let's talk real briefly about Evolution 2 Electric Boogaloo. This is a rough looking card. They have a battle royal for the World Championship match at Clash in Paris, which is going to be at the end of August. Jade Cargill versus Naomi. I know everyone loves. I know that. I'm still trying to figure out why Naomi's getting like the 38th push of her career when she doesn't move the needle the way I think people wish she did. That being said, she's probably the only one on the roster.
38.
What's that?
You said 38. Isn't that her actual age
I
too?
think it might be. She gets a push every year since she's been born. So like, hey, good for her. Um, I I think she's like, what's the best way I can put this? In WCW, they had one of the Armstrong brothers. I think it was Brad Armstrong, who would end up becoming Buzzkill. Um, he was the best talent in the Armstrong family. Not Road Dogg, not what was the one with the real fucked up counting motion? Scott Armstrong, was that who that was? With the kind of counting motion. And I know there was no like physical visual, but I think the sound effect worked. Brad was the best. He could get you a great match out of anyone. He really could. He was dull as dog shit. I feel like that's the male equivalent to what I see Naomi as. She is a great talent to put in the ring to make someone else look great. And Jade will have every opportunity to look great. I just like after 15 years of Naomi, I'm just I don't get it. I don't see it.
Yeah, yeah, right.
Right? But then again, that's how I feel about so many of these women. So many of these men as well. Like holy crap. Lyra Valkyra Valkyria
Valkyria, yeah.
Valkyria. What a dumb name. She's taking on Bailey and Becky Lynch. I don't give a shit about Becky Lynch. Becky Lynch was cool when she got her face broken, and it seemed like a real interesting star at that point in time. But now she's been on top for a decade, and she really only is pivoted one way, and that's like being the bombastic, dressed villain. I'm the man. I dress like a weirdo, and I insult everyone. All right, cool. I don't care. Bailey's fine, but she's always been, I think, limited athletically, and I don't care about the women's intercontinental championship match because why the fuck did you call it the intercontinental champion? I couldn't. You have writers. You couldn't have come up with something more catchy. Like fuck. So I'm not really excited about that match. Trish Stratus is 50. We're giving Goldberg a lot of shit for being 58. Trish is 50. What are we doing? I don't know anyone who's watching the product today who's been a fan for the last 5 or 6 years who gives a shit about Trish Stratus anymore. It's the same conversation about Goldberg. I love Goldberg. I've been a wrestling fan longer than he's been in the industry. But like Trish, and this is real. Like think about this. Trish had a 5-year run as a wrestler. Not even. She didn't start wrestling fully until like 2002, late 2001, 2002. So she had like a 3.5-year run as a wrestler, and we keep going back to this well. This is how poorly the WWE has treated their women's division over the last 25 years because they have to keep going back to Trish Stratus, someone we've seen. It was cool the first time when she and Lita came back for the first Evolution. Oh, that was so cute. So cool. Now Trish comes back like twice a year. The mystique is gone. The hype is gone. The intrigue is gone. At 50, she's not going to be the same performer she was at 25. And yet you're asking her to be. And like Tiffany Stratton, I think has proven pretty decisively that she's just not that good. And here we are. I'm not interested. Like I don't care. Trish is gonna lose. They'll talk about how Tiffany beat Trish. It's the same dullard, uninteresting rehashed booking that they're doing with Walter and Goldberg. I don't care. The other half of this is not great. JC Jane is, certainly a name to go with. She shocked everyone when she won the NXT Women's Championship, and you had a lot of better talent who should have been top dog, but we got JC Jane. Okay, she's taking on Jordan Grace, and I think if I remember correctly, the winner of this will go on to Slammiversary. Somehow that's an actual sentence. That's the truest thing I think I've said about this card. To face Masha Slamovich. And if JC Jane beats Masha Slamovich, I may stop watching fucking wrestling as a whole because that will be one of the worst goddamn things I've ever seen happen in my lifetime to the women's division in TNA. I can't do it. Now, like if Jordan Grace wins and then goes and beats Masha, like fair enough, whatever. She's literally the best women's wrestler in the world, and she's stuck on the developmental brand. Like who cares? Like that would suck. Then we got Io Sky and Rhea Ripley. Rhea is pretty cool. I like her. Io's a decent hand. She's very good, and the Twitter grouping they like her little finger head thing, and that's really all she's got. She got that one move. This is your headlining match. This is your main event, and I, for the life of me, can't figure out why we're excited about this. Like at all. Like you could do so much better with this card. You could do so much better with this talent. Because while I'm knocking a lot of it, and God, there's a lot to knock, you have Rhea Ripley, who top 10 women's talent, easily. You have the name brand of Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch. Really. You have so many, like, I know I can't pronounce her name, but I don't listen to WWE product. I just watch it sometimes. Lyra's a hell of a hand. hell of a hand. You got Kairi Sane in a throwaway tag team match. Raquel Rodriguez is now tagging with Roxanne Perez, who's filling in for Liv Morgan. Now, Liv Morgan, name, not talent, not a loss. You can easily replace that. But then, you have, I think Nikki Bella, who. So here's the women's Battle Royal matches so far. Stephanie Vaquer is going to be a throwaway entrant in the Battle Royal. What are we doing? Ivy Nile, Nia Jax, Nikki Bella, Natalia, Maxine Dupree, Kalani Jordan, Jada Parker, Lola Vice, Lash Legend, Izzy Dame, Tatum Paxley, Zelina Vega, Julia, and Candice LeRae. You could have put Julia versus Stephanie Vaquer in this card. And instead they're going to be getting thrown out by the greatest legend, the one who inspired so many, in Nikki Bella. What are we doing? Guys, what the fuck are we doing? This is one of the worst goddamn cards I've ever seen in my life. And I know a lot of people are going to be like, no, you're being overly critical. This card has so much talent, Marcus. And we're putting two of the best names in a battle royal no one gives a shit about. We're going to have to sit through Lola Vice trying to wrestle, and then everyone gooning about it. Jesus Christ. I never thought, my brother and cat, my brother and dog, I never thought I'd see the day where Lola Vice, who I covered when she was in Bellator. I wrote articles about her. I talked about her. I spoke about her quick fists, her interesting footwork, her dynamic offense. I never thought that she would be so uninteresting as a wrestler that I'm like, hey, you know who's better than her? Maxine Dupree. Never thought I'd say that sentence. Never thought I'd say that sentence. Lola Vice had a higher floor than Maxine Dupree, but as I've watched both, Lola Vice's ceiling has dropped considerably, especially when you put her around. And like Julia am I saying her name right? I think I am, right?
Mm-hmm.
Gaiulia, the Japanese female version of Guile. She is legitimately number 2 in the world, maybe number 3, best women's wrestler going. She is so good, and they fumbled her so hard. It is like watching Mark Sanchez try to run for 3 yards and then running into the ass of his own center. That is how badly they booked her. And now, for some reason, Stephanie Vaquer is getting all the love in the world, and I think it's because she was basically going to be an AEW superstar. So Triple H is like, no, I'm a signer, and then I'm going to, strap a rocket to her ass and push her to the moon. And it's like, all right, cool. She's not her, though. We can lie about it. We can all pretend she is. She was going to be a mid-carder in AEW. And Triple H now looks like an asshole for signing her and making her, the poster girl for all things NXT and women's wrestling for WWE. And it's like, all right, cool. She's not even your top 10 most talented women. In fact, one of the most talented, the former Delta, who now goes by Zaraya. Zaraya. Ugh, what a fucking terrible name. It's so bad. Delta's in a I didn't know that Delta and Sol Roca were in a tag team. Like, that's news to me. I watch more wrestling than anything. Like, the fuck?
Yeah, I feel like they're giving it a Blair Davenport treatment because this is another name that you've lauded about several times. I'm like, he has the look and the veracity, but she's not getting that look and that like a Vaquera, like a Julia when they were in NXT. When we first got Julia and Vaquera, it became very evident that they were head and shoulders above everybody else, just in presentation.
Mm-hmm.
But for some reason, Daria it's not counted in that march, if you will.
And she should be. She has what's her name? Thekla? How do you pronounce that one?
Yeah, Tekla.
Tekla? Yeah. She has a lot of Tekla in her in terms of like her ambiance. Like, she has that beautiful brutality that Thekla has, or Tekla. And like, they're not doing anything with it. What I will say, Sol Roca being thrown into a random ass tag team, I don't know what the fuck's going on. If she wins, I think it's one of the cooler stories in wrestling because she's the speed champion, which who gives a fuck? She's the NXT Women's North American Champion, which again, stupid fucking name for the title. But then she'd also be the Women's Tag Team Champion. I think that's pretty cool. I like when talent get focused and featured on because that's part of the problem with modern day WWE booking is that they're trying to focus and feature so many talent they don't realize that you should only really have like 10 top names and they should be cycled through and recycled through until someone else is deserving of that run. So like it'd be cool to see Soul Rocket get a nice little push. Her finisher's stupid. She does like that inverted flip into a cutter or like a stunner from the top rope.
Yeah. Oh,
It's the dumbest thing I've ever seen.
yeah.
Very, very cool to watch, but dumb.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, do you think that they can work that into some type of finisher where she type of does something where she balances off of Zarya or something into it?
Oh yeah, yeah. That's a great finish
Yeah.
for a double team move. But here's the thing, visually spectacular. Even if they figure that out,
Yeah.
she's gonna fuck up her spine and her hips. She's 25. If she keeps doing this as a finisher, she's gonna be done by 30. And I know, like, who was it? Darby Allin or Will Ospreay or somebody, I can't remember who, basically said, I'm not changing my style, and if I have to retire by 30, then so fucking be it. Now, granted, both men are 32 now, so, like, whoever it was.
Yeah.
But, like, some people want to go until the wheels fall off. Others, like Omega or Jericho, will adjust their style to fit what they need to do. Others, like Okada, will never engage in that style and will be able to have a long, promising career because they never had to do flash over substance. But here we are. Overall, Marcus, I think this is one of the worst cards I've ever seen, and I think it's going to be a shit show. Are you going to watch it?
Yeah, I'm gonna try to catch more of it just because I want to support the women. And I do think it does feel like, and somebody said this on X when it was like, it really do feel like there was a narrative around this card, and now I don't know if they really felt like they was gonna do it, and then came down the wire, then they just went like, okay, fuck it, here we go. Here, y'all can have it. Y'all wanted it. It took us what a decade to do it again. And here it is, and then it kind of feels like a lot of stuff was thrown together. And then I also think they said they're having it on the same, going back to one of your earlier points about somebody you mentioned, they're having it on the same night of a Beyonce concert across the street from said concert.
Now, if I remember
So
correctly, aren't all three
um
shows in the area? Atlanta,
I wanna say it is like that's in
Atlanta.
Atlanta.
Yep, all of them are
Yeah, it's
all of them are
Saturday
in
night game.
Atlanta.
Yeah.
Great American Bash will be at center
So
stage, which I think TNA actually ran. And then Evolution and Saturday Night's main event will be at the
yeah,
same arena, but the Evolution show will be on Sunday, the 13th. It's the only show that won't be on
gotcha.
at the same time as the other two. Yeah. So here's hoping.
Yeah. Want to support the women. Do you think worse to you, even though it has more on it, this or the other Saturday night?
In terms of what, like excitement?
In terms of like you think of like just overall excitement, if you think go deliver, even though Saturday nights has far lesser amount of matches, what do you think it will deliver?
I think I think Evolution will deliver more. Honestly,
Yeah,
Goldberg and Gunther is the biggest match of the weekend for the WWE, regardless of the show. But when you have like Rhea
yeah,
Ripley, Naomi, um, who else is on this card? Lyra, you got Roxanne Perez. Like you got a lot of talent on this card. If they don't like,
yeah,
if one match delivers, I think it'll be better than Saturday Night's main
yeah,
event. I don't think any of those three matches will deliver. But let's talk about Great American
yeah.
Bash because I don't think this card's going to deliver at all. This is one of the worst builds for a card I've ever seen, and honestly, this is the most picked over the roster has ever been. Javion Evans isn't that guy, and he'll never be able to outlive the fact that he got nuked by Ricochet. And every fan now dunks on him because Ricochet's going to be performing in front of like 30,000 people, 40,000 people in Texas. And Javion Edwards can't fill a 1,000-seat arena. I've never seen a dude nuke his own career so fast. Sometimes you just keep your mouth shut. Falls Count Anywhere match between Ethan Page and Ricky Saints. This is like, what's the best way I can describe this? In 2004, the Cleveland Browns released, who was it? Gerard Warren, Courtney Brown, and like a third person, I can't remember. And the Browns decreed, we need to improve our defensive line. And then the Denver Broncos signed like Courtney Brown, Gerard Warren, and somebody else. And they're like, no, this is fine. We'll use them as our new starters. And everyone's like, but they weren't good enough to succeed in Cleveland. What are you doing? And this is what that feels like. Ricky Saints couldn't get over in AEW, couldn't get over in NWA. Ethan Page couldn't get over in TNA. He couldn't get over in AEW. And now I had to sit through watching them try to get over in the developmental of WB. And it's like, wow, this is awful. This is my nightmare. I don't care. There was a time I was a big Ricky Starks fan. Big Ricky Starks fan. Not as big as you. You've been a big fan of his. And I think you still have more hope for him than I do. But we've gotten to the point of diminishing returns with both these guys. And since this is a developmental brand, I think a 35, soon to be 36-year-old Ethan Page and a 35, soon to be 36-year-old Ricky Saints ain't it. It ain't it. It's like, I don't give a shit. Then we have Izzy Dame taking on Sol Roca for the Women's North American Championship. I haven't watched a lot of Izzy Dame. She's from the Developmental Performance Center, so like, could be interesting. She has this real wild, bombastic look. Should be interesting, but she does kind of come off as a Tiffy Stratton wannabe. And I'm like, wow, WWE really doesn't have the ability to create different stars, do you? I do like Sol Roca. I like her. I like her a lot. I like her name. I like her vibe. I like her look. I do like that she's like, listen, everyone thinks my character surfs. Great. I don't. I thought that was fucking hilarious. But I don't think she's a good enough hand to make, a 2-year veteran in Izzy Dame who's never done anything but wrestle performance center style matches into a good match. I think it's really fucking lofty to try to make this work. But hey, what are you gonna do? The summon main is Jordan Grace and Blake Monroe, the former Mariah May. Hey, look, I found her. Taking on Fatal Influence and JC Jane and Fallon Henley with Jasmine Nix in their corner. This probably was going to be a title match, but considering the fact that the next night is Evolution, where Jordan Grace will be taking on JC Jane for the title, obviously they're not going to do it here. That hurts the quality of this match because while Blake Monroe, aka Mariah May, may have some type of leftover ambiance and riz, if you will, from AEW, I don't think JC Jane and Fallon Henley have the corresponding relevance to make this match seem important. You know what this feels like to a lesser degree, not to the same degree, but to a lesser degree, when John Cena and The Rock teamed up to take on Ron Killings and The Miz. It was one of those like you got two A pluses taking on two two C's this is like putting like a 14-year-old in a NFL summer camp and asking him to keep pace. It ain't gonna work.
Joe versus Smalls.
Yeah, ain't gonna work. Main events. This is gonna be awful. Yoshihiki Inamura, the Noah talent, is gonna take on Obafemi. I think Obafemi. I don't think he'll ever be a great wrestler. I don't want to like thumb my nose at the guy, but he's gonna be a good wrestler the same way Kane and Undertaker were. He's never going to be like a guy you can put out there and have the best match of the night every time he wrestles because that's not who he is. He is a big dude with some pretty decent athleticism, but he's got a look. He's got the style. He's got the aspect that you would want. I don't think he can carry someone with the quality of Inamura. I think that's a huge ask. I don't think Yoshihiki Inamura is the best option for Obafemi to have a main event match with. and I think it's going to end up being kind of a lackluster outing because as far as Noah talent goes, he's not exactly the top of the class, so to speak. So this really feels like a throwaway NXT pay per view, or sorry, premium live event, and I really don't know what we're doing. I don't. I don't get it. I don't get why we're
Yeah,
wasting the time that we are with some of these guys. Like, I don't know.
yeah. Um, I don't doubt that, Evans and Troy and Page and Saints, you know, won't be entertaining. I'm looking more forward to Evans and Troy just because of the size differential and just, just that clash of styles in general. Page and Saints, like you said, 100% accurate on both of them is perception wise. And I've also cooled off on Saints for the final reason. And NXT it's just like a lot of that. It feels like a lot of that magic's gone. Got a good theme music and it's kept a lot of that Ricky swag, if you will, but it's just different now. And Page oftentimes thrives better when he's going up against somebody that everybody likes more. So the Soul Ruka thing, yeah, I mean I think she's better than Dane. I feel like Taxum it would be better served in terms of straight up and down talent than Dane, but I understand wanting to put her in situations to improve where she's at. I'm more interested in seeing if they do an eventual, to your point about where Zarya should be versus where she is, if they do an eventual turn where Zarya eventually, goes full heel on Ruka, considering the fact she probably feels like she should have the spot that she's in.
Mm-hmm.
Um, she has that monster vibe about her, she just has to fully tap into it. Um, kind of a lot of it reminds me of what they were trying to do with Rhea when she first came to the main roster. Like, this girl looks like something that could be out of like a real good vampire movie or something, and she would be the boss of it, but y'all got her being a face. It makes no sense.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to seeing if they eventually do that. Jordan Grace and Blake, like I said, it comes off like Joe's versus Small, even though Jordan is leagues above everybody in that match. And Fatal Influence has always come off like a Timu Toxic Attraction type of
Eh,
deal. Um, so there's that. But they have no business losing that match. If they do, it's because of the woman advantage on the other end. And Femi, I don't know how this is gonna go. You have more knowledge about Inamura than I do, but just the fact that he's from Noah puts him at a certain tier automatically. I wonder. I wanted to ask this to you real quick before we head out. Do you think Femi has turned into what they wish? Um, the big guy that was with Styles. I'm blanking on his name right now. That they sent to New Japan.
yeah. They sent him to Noah. God, what is his
Yeah,
name? Almost. You
almost. Yeah.
you almost got his name right. Yeah, yeah, I do. But then again, I don't know why they didn't do more with him. He was having a
Yeah.
great run in Noah. People were very excited. And like, here's the thing, he's like what 7 feet tall. I know this is gonna sound shocking, but there's
Yeah.
not a lot of 7 feet tall black dude in Japan. So he was seen as a big deal in Noah. And
Yeah.
and all of a sudden they're like, nah, we're gonna take him back because like he's too popular now, and we don't want him to think he's actually good. Like that was stupid. Just terrible decision making by this company. But then again, it's the WWE. All right. I think that's about it though. So
Yeah.
we'll 22 skidoo on out of here. You can follow us on the website at realnerdcorp.com, realnerdcorp.com. We're on Twitter at nerdcorp, twitch.com, and YouTube at Wrestling Underground. Marcus, you're on Twitter at Paradox Kid, ParadoxKid.
That's me.
You can also find him on his other podcast, The True Painting Show, which you can find at on Twitter at TRUEPNNYSHOW. You can find me on Instagram at Chad's Photohut, CHRDSPHOTOHUT, and you can find us in 2 weeks on Tuesday, 2 weeks from now, talking Slammiversary. That's going to be our next show. We're going to do the recap of the event and talk about all the things that went down. Possibly a new TV deal for TNA. We're going to talk about it all. That's coming up in 2 weeks. We're going to be off next week, but other than that, we're all set. So as always, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for checking us out. Thanks for the chance. Remember, wrestling, Marcus.
Good night.